A groundbreaking development in the world of medical technology. A new smartphone app developed right here in the Bay Area may be a game changer for detecting a form of dementia hitting people under 60. It's not on the market yet, but it holds a lot of promise. Joining us live now to talk about the research, UCSF clinical neuropsychologist and associate professor Dr. Adam Staffaroni. Dr. Staffaroni, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Kristen. Thanks so much for having me.
I guess to have this conversation, we should explain what is FTD or frontotemporal dementia and how is it different from Alzheimer's?
Yeah, so frontotemporal dementia, or FTD, is the most common early onset form of dementia, striking before the age of 60. It's a progressive brain disease similar to Alzheimer's disease, but unlike Alzheimer's disease that primarily affects the memory circuits of the brain early on, FTD causes changes in personality and behavior, things like disinhibition and apathy. It can cause changes in language and speech, and it can cause movement changes. It can also change aspects of cognition, something we call executive functioning. So this is multitasking, planning, and inhibiting.
Is this something that's pretty common? What are the numbers?
It's not that common of disease. It's not nearly as common as Alzheimer's disease, for example. It's less than 10 in 100,000.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so given that, you talked about some of the symptoms, it sounds like, how does this new smartphone app detect early signs of it?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, one of the common features of FTD is difficulty with this executive functioning. And so the company that we've been working with has developed a number of different tests that look at executive functioning, and we can do it on the smartphone. And this is, I think, really helpful for a number of reasons. Currently, we're limited to bringing people in person for our research studies and our clinical trials. But given that this is a rare disease, we need to bring in people from really all around the country and all around the world into these studies. So having something that we could do in their home would be useful. I think the behavior and the movement symptoms of this condition also make it difficult for people to get to the clinic. So the more that we can do to bring this to people's homes, I think the more inclusive we can be in our studies.
I gotcha. Yeah, so they're on their phone, and what kind of tests might they be run through to test executive functioning?
Yeah, they're gamified versions of things that we've been doing in the clinic for many years. So asking people to, inhibit one of the responses that they may want to do, respond quickly to a number of tests, do some problem solving on the phone as well. These are all the types of things that we're testing.
You mentioned that it has some advantage over clinical testing in that it's certainly more convenient, right, and more affordable and wider reach. But are there disadvantages? Are there things that you might be able to find out in the clinical setting that you can't get from this?
Yeah, certainly. And just to say, I think there's advantages beyond just the convenience as well. We can also test people more frequently. So we currently rely on a single annual snapshot, often to give us a sense of how somebody is doing. With the convenience of a smartphone, you can collect more repeated evaluations over the course of the year, and I think give us a little bit more of an accurate sense, particularly of how somebody is doing. We're starting to show that this early sensitivity of the smartphone-based testing. But I think you're right. I think there should be caution that's applied to this. In the study that we recently published, we did most of this testing unsupervised, so nobody was watching it happen. So there's a lot of things you can imagine going on in the home that might affect the testing. So I think ultimately having something like this that is then verified by a clinician in a standard setting would be really important.
All right, and we're looking at some images that you sent us from the app. However, it doesn't seem like, I mean, it's not public, so it's not like our viewers cannot participate yet, right?
That's correct. So currently this is a research grade device. So it's being used in a number of different research studies, both of frontotemporal dementia and other conditions. We've also partnered with the UCSF Brain Health Registry to collect this in people who are normally aging as well, to give us a sense of how we think people should be performing on these tests. Currently, this isn't available as a clinical tool, so it's only being used through research at this point until we feel really confident in the results that we're getting.
How many years do you think that might take?
Oh, I mean, it's hard to put a number on it, but I think there's a lot of very rapid evolution of this field. And I think within the next 5 years, the use of digital testing, both through smartphone apps as well as wearables and other devices, is going to be a much more common part of medical practice.
And there are lots of clinical trials underway for FTD, right?
There are a number. It depends how broadly you define FTD, but up to 30 that are either planned or ongoing currently.
All right, and perhaps this app will play a role, but until it is public, what do you suggest to people who may be concerned that they or a relative may have FTD? What should they be, looking out for? And if they see some of those things, what should they do?
Yeah, so this is a disease that strikes later in life. So we see a new onset of these symptoms, these behavioral and personality changes, things like people becoming very apathetic, becoming disinhibited, really a change in their personality, quite substantially from who they were previously. Changes in language functioning is also a red flag, or new onset changes in how somebody is moving. And I think, if there is concerns, raising this to your primary care physician is probably a good first route. We do tertiary evaluations and secondary evaluations in neurology clinics as well.
And are there ways to slow it down, so to speak, if you do have it?
Yeah, so currently there are no treatments that can slow it down. Again, we're very enthusiastic about treatments that are being developed currently or are being tested.
Yeah.
There is some evidence. So there are genetic forms. Roughly 30% of FTD is due to a mutation in a gene, and so 50% of people in these families develop FTD. And what we've seen there is that people who are physically active, who are cognitively active, who are socially active, this can actually help slow the onset and the progression of the disease a little bit, even in these genetic cases. So I think these are all good recommendations for people. I think they're good for people in general, but I think can also help potentially slow the progression of this disease.
Got it. That's true. And whenever you talk to the Centurions, how do they do it? They cite a lot of those things as things that they embrace for life. Dr. Adam Staffaroni with UCSF, clinical neuropsychologist there. Thank you so much for your time.